Whoa! SUVs banned from Paris. The London mayor considering following suit. And of all places, the internal combustion engine banned from Ethiopia? This really is looking like it's the beginning of the end, or is it just the ongoing battle in the war on motorists? Let's look at this right after this.
A brown car guy.
Right, so a couple of days ago there was some news about, there was some talk and discussion about the possibility of increasing the parking charges on SUVs from major city centres. And the news came out here in London because it was reported that London Mayor Sadiq Khan was looking very closely at a proposal to do this in Paris, in France, so another capital city. Turns out the vote has gone through and Paris votes to triple parking fees for SUVs. This is in Automotive News Europe. So let me read this out to you. Parisians voted in a referendum on Sunday in favour of subjecting large SUVs to a threefold increase in parking charges as the French capital presses on with long-term plans to become a fully bikeable city. About 54.5% of Parisians voted in favour of the measure, while 45.5% rejected it. Well, that was quite close. See what happens when you don't get out and vote. That's painfully close. Only 5.7% of voters turned out in the consultation decided by the municipality, according to official results. See what I just said about make sure you turn out to vote. You can't be complacent about these things because this is what happens otherwise. The referendum less than a year after city residents voted to ban e-scooters. Wow, how are you supposed to get around Paris? This aims to triple parking fees for cars of 1.6 tons or more to 18 euros, which is about $19 an hour, to discourage bulky polluting cars. That's in quotation marks. According to City Hall. So this was basically under Mayor Anne Hidalgo, who probably, I don't know if she's in C40 cities, but I'm guessing she probably is. Of course, Sadiq Khan, the London Mayor, is chair of C40 cities. It's an international group of mayors from major cities. Mayor Anne Hidalgo, who is a socialist. We are proud of having posed an eminently environmental question at a time the environment is presented as the source of all evil. That can't be right. The environment is presented as the source of all evil? Or cars are? Isn't that what you were trying to say? Anyway, it's a form of resistance here in Paris to this very concerning movement. Okay, well, I'm not even sure whether that's been translated correctly. The motorist lobby group 40 million des automobilistes, I don't know how to pronounce that, launched a petition to support drivers' freedom to use whichever vehicle they want. We must firmly oppose these attacks on freedom pursued under false green pretext, the group said. If we do not stop this now, this unjustified rebellion led by an ultra-urban and anti-car minority will spread like gangrene to other cities. I think we should remember those words. But yes, so that's happened in Paris. So like I said, just a few days ago, there were reports about the fact, it was widely reported on the news and in the media and in the newspapers, that Sadiq Khan was looking very closely at this and that he was considering doing the same. So Khan welcomed Hidalgo's plan and said that he would watch it closely. I'm reading this from The Guardian now. Watch it closely. He told The Guardian, "We always examine policies around the globe. I'm a firm believer in stealing good policies." Not just stealing our money then. Anyway, rather than inventing new policies badly, if other cities are doing stuff that works, we will copy them. Khan said he knew SUVs were a particular problem that needed to be tackled. SUVs take up more space and we know there's issues around road safety, we know there's issues around carbon emissions and so forth. We know some councils in London are taking bold policies in relation to parking fees, in relation to your tickets and so forth. It's really good to work with those councils. As I've covered in previous videos, there are increased charges for parking your cars where there are increased emissions, or in the case of EVs, as I recently reported in a very recent video, Westminster and some other councils have increased the charges for parking your EV, thereby going against all of the normal narrative of EVs being the way to go. EV owners are now also being penalized because, quote, they have heavier and larger cars. So this is essentially the same thing that's happening here with SUVs. However, according to The Guardian, a spokesman for Khan later told The Guardian, so after the rhetoric, a spokesman said that, well, the mayor does not currently have the power to implement parking levies on SUVs and has no plans to do so. So, but obviously he's thinking about it, and of course he's thinking about it amongst the many other things he's doing. There's a couple of things here. Now, I know that they've said, so what has Paris said? So Paris said that cars are 1.6 tons or more. Well, 1.6 tons nowadays covers a lot of cars. There's all this talk about EVs being heavier and talk about them being 2 tons plus, whatever. But actually, we've been in the era of SUVs and even crossovers at 2 tons for quite a few years now already. And I can imagine a lot of crossovers would fall into that category as well. And therein lies a problem. It's like, how do you define SUVs? Who gets to decide what an SUV is? And whether an SUV is there because purely for the sake of show, and it's the fact that it's a big off-roader that doesn't necessarily need to be in the city. Oh my God, I worry for all the Jeep Wrangler owners and Land Rover Defender owners, right? Or do you look at it from the point of view that it's actually a family car that's being used by a family? So if you have crossovers, like anything from, I don't know, a Toyota Yaris, what's a Toyota Aygo Cross or something like that, you know, I mean, is that an SUV? You know, just because it's on stilts? Would the Suzuki Jimny be regarded as an SUV? And that thing is tiny. You know, I mean, would that be an SUV? I mean, how would you actually define these? And if you define these cars as SUVs, if you say that those crossovers are SUVs and whatnot, and you go, right, they're going to be subject to increased charges and effectively kind of trying to ban them from the cities. I know the headline said, and I earlier said ban, but of course this is not a ban. This is just trying to get more money out of the owners of those vehicles. That's what this is. But if you say that that's the case, then how do you reconcile that with the existence of, say, large luxury saloons? So I mean, so if there's like a Fiat 500 Cross or whatever it is, crossover SUV parked there, then and next to it is a Rolls-Royce Ghost or a Rolls-Royce Phantom even. Does the Rolls-Royce Phantom get the normal parking charges and the small family crossover actually gets increased parking charges because it's classed as an SUV and it may be over 1.6 tons? Let me check. Right, so I just checked the Fiat 500 Cross for just as an example, just falls below the 1600 or 1.6 ton parameter. So it's at 1,400 kilograms. So it literally has 200 kilograms in it. So you take, for example, the recently introduced Peugeot 408, a French car. I thought let's study that one. And this is a crossover. It's a handsome looking thing. It's very sleek. It's very stylish. It's got a real look about it. But it's a family car. It very much is a family car. It weighs 1,700 kilograms. So that would be subject to that. But that's a family car. Meanwhile, yes, a Rolls-Royce Phantom is about 2.6 tons. Well, over 2.6 tons, and even the Rolls-Royce Ghost is 2.4 tons. So are they considered SUVs? Would they be penalized because they're bigger, larger, heavier than regular cars? And you know, forget Rolls-Royces, we're talking like, you know, large-end luxury saloon cars and what have you. And let's not forget also that doesn't the mayor himself normally get ferried around in SUVs accompanied by security in other SUVs? I mean, you know, we're opening a can of worms here. We really are. Where does it stop? I mean, that 1.6 ton, I think that's quite low, you know, so a lot of cars are already well over that. So this is really interesting, and this is definitely part of the ongoing war on motorists, so that we insist is happening, whilst others insist there's no such thing, but it's evident that it is. And it's global, as we've seen from Paris, but also from somewhere that you might have least expected it. Yeah, so this is being reported in Electrek. It's being reported in other places as well. And this is the headline. Ethiopia, yes, Ethiopia, is set to become the first country in the world to ban internal combustion cars. Oh yeah, this is Ethiopia, yeah, that's right. It's sort of in the middle of Africa, isn't it? It's sort of not, it's actually very close in proximity to the Middle East, to the GCC states, such as Saudi Arabia. This is the irony of that. So they're doing this. So this is actually happening. And according to this report, Ethiopia has spent nearly $6 billion importing fossil fuels last year. And more than half of that was to fuel vehicles. So in response to this, Ethiopia's transport and logistics ministries have announced that automobiles, I'm guessing ICE automobiles, internal combustion engine automobiles, cannot now enter Ethiopia unless they are electric. I wonder what that means for people who are touring. Does that mean that, like, if you're just driving your car on a touring holiday or whatever, now suddenly, even if you intend to drive it in and drive it out again, does that mean you can't go there? I'd love to clarify if anybody out there, and by the way, if anybody is from Ethiopia or is living in Ethiopia or knows that country very well, I've got to admit, I've never been there, then do give us your comments and your feedback, including, for example, do they have the infrastructure to now insist that only electric cars will be available there and that will come in there? Do they actually have that? I mean, to be fair, they've actually spent a lot on renewable energies. I'll come back to that in a minute. Let me just get back to the story. According to a news update from the Parliament, the Ethiopian Minister for Transport and Logistics announced the completion of the nation's logistic master plan Monday, and details were scarce, but he announced that a decision has been made that automobiles cannot enter Ethiopia unless they are electric vehicles. And he went on to highlight the implementation of new practices in strategic affairs and addressed the committee on the ministry's initiatives related to green transport initiatives throughout Ethiopia. Wow, who would imagine, huh? Some further explained the efforts to establish charging stations were in high priority, so this is for charging stations, and offered the nation's inability to access favorable foreign exchange resources has contributed to its inability to afford to continue importing gasoline and diesel. So even though, like, right across the water from it is Saudi Arabia, one of the biggest exporters of fuel, Ethiopia is finding it expensive. And so this is interesting. So they're saying that it's a green initiative, but the other reality of it is an economic reality, because they're finding it just really expensive to get hold of oil and fuel. And so therefore they're going, well, we should just switch to electric. But can they switch to electric? Well, to be fair to Ethiopia, Ethiopia has been investing massive amounts on its energy infrastructure for the past 20 years. And 97% of its energy now comes from renewables. So it's just about to inaugurate a 6,500 megawatt hydroelectric plant poised to be the largest in Africa. So from that point of view, I suppose it actually makes a lot of sense, because when you talk about electric cars, you talk about where is the energy actually coming from. 97% renewable. I mean, that's quite extraordinary. I mean, well done, Ethiopia. That's amazing. And that actually does, to my mind, actually justify them fully going electric as much as they can. But of course, with the proviso that they can actually provide the infrastructure. But this weird thing about just banning ICE cars. I mean, again, this thing, I really like the whole concept of just banning stuff. It really irks me, you know. It's rather than trying to get people to naturally transition to something that might be good for them, might be good for the economy, might be good for the environment, which surely would be a better way to approach this, rather than just doing these blanket bans. But this is what's happened there. So is this the beginning of the end? Is it just being pragmatic? Is it all about economics? Is it all about politics? You tell me. I'd love to hear from you in the comments, and I'll catch you all in the next video.
Brown car guy.
In London streets, where politics and power collide, The ULEZ Files by Brown Car Guy is a thrilling new novel depicting a high-stakes battle for the roads. Join Max Turner, a motoring journalist, as he uncovers a plot to control car ownership and personal liberties. With agent Eleanor Rodriguez and tech genius Flux Jackson, they race against time through London's iconic streets. It's a narrative that questions the balance between environmental policies and individual rights. For fans of cars, action, and political intrigue, the ULEZ Files promises high-speed chases, tactical ingenuity, and a fight for justice. Available now, exclusively on Amazon.com. The ULEZ Files by Brown Car Guy. Get your copy today.
Brown car guy.
Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please hit the like button and share this video as well if you can. And while you're at it, check out these guys who also sponsor my content. I am deeply grateful to them because it helps me to buy new equipment, put fuel in the cars, and yes, buy a cup of coffee. You can do the same. Just go here or right here on YouTube. Just hit these three little dots down here and click on thanks. Make sure you're signed in first. My content is free, but this is how you can help me keep it that way. I may even send you a gift. Oh, by the way, watch this next.